where there's a lot of transformation, healing and clearing and releasing of things that are no longer needed and no longer required. And as much as there can be the stuff that we have lived in or lived within in this current incarnation, in this current life, it is also the ancestral things that we have inherited through our different bloodlines, as well as the soul stuff that we have carried into this lifetime. I was guided to create this process and instructed to create this process because we are in this time where we have the opportunity to really clear and release a lot of stuff. In the past, I've been doing this work for just over 20 years now, and I used to do a lot of past life healings and clearings, and then of course ancestral work came into that too. And I just, I noticed as time went on that these were long processes, and it took so much time just to clear one thing, to clear one wound, to clear one aspect of the ancestral stuff that we carry. And I kind of thought, we're in this time where things are speeding up, where the energy's moving really, really quickly. Surely there's got to be a faster way of doing this. And also I was doing it one-on-one with people. So it meant I was only able to do one person. And sometimes those sessions would go on for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, just on one issue. And so in my questioning and in my pondering around these things, and whether there was an easier way and a faster way to clear the stuff, this is the process that I was guided towards and guided to offer. And so what we do through this process, thankfully, I've already done a large part of the work to find the emotions, to find the wounds, not within you, but how many wounds you're carrying, both from an ancestral perspective and from a soul perspective, that are currently in your field, in your energy field, and coming up within you and maybe being reflected in your external life, that can be cleared very quickly. You can do this process again and again and again, because of course there's always more stuff. We are on a healing journey in this lifetime, and it doesn't end until we are passed on and onto the other side and through and into a different existence. So we can do this process a number of times, and every time it's going to be a different wound. Every time it's going to be a different feeling to the process. It is a really simple process and an incredibly powerful process. You don't have to do anything other than follow the instructions that I give you. I will guide you into a deeply meditative state, where you will access and work with your body to access these emotions and to access these wounds. It's not a thinking process, it is a feeling process. One of the things that I found so interesting about the life or the world that we live in today is that hundreds of years ago, when we lived in community and in tribes, if someone was dying, the community or the tribe would go to that person and say, what is it that you have left unfinished? What are the things that you need to do before your soul is free to leave this realm and to move into the next one? And so that person would explain it was either a conversation that they needed to have, a journey that they needed to do, an apology, whatever it is that they needed. And someone in the community would put up their hand and say, well, I can do that for you, and I can do that for you. And that person would then embark on that process to free the soul and untether them from this realm and from that life that they had lived. We have evolved, apparently, and we now live in a world where we don't do this. We don't go to our dying people and say, what have you left unfinished? What do you still need to do? What is on your bucket list? All of those things. We don't do that for our dying people. We're so terrified of death that we don't have the conversations that we need to have with our dying. And as a result of that, for generations, there has been stuff that is left unfinished. And this is the stuff that is carried through the bloodlines and that we inherit, along with the characteristics and our eye color and our hair color and our body shape. All of that, we inherit these wounds and this unfinished business. And often some of the things we can't clear in this quick process because it is part of our soul growth and our soul journey and our soul evolution to live out the experience of that ancestral's unfinished business. But there are some things that can just be cleared because they almost get in the way. The debris of things, and they can be cleared quickly. But if we don't clear them, they can get in the way. They can create blockages. They can create challenges that we are faced with that are unnecessary. They can bring up feelings that we have that we don't need to feel because they have no purpose. The only thing that they do is create turmoil or chaos inside of us. So we work to clear all of that debris out so that we can really be free to focus on our soul purpose, our soul path, and what it is that we are here to do in this incarnation, and truly align with that within ourselves. And then with the soul wounds, it's a similar thing. There are soul wounds that we've brought into this lifetime that we need to live out because these karmic experiences are really important for our growth. But then there are some where, you know, we were betrayed by someone, and this betrayal created this huge wound that has created some form of soul loss within us. And so there is a space within us that doesn't feel whole. I mean, if you imagine our soul essence as a container of energy, sometimes that container has a whole lot of holes in where the energy leaks out and where parts of us are missing. And what we're going to do in this process is claim back those parts and heal those holes so that the energy doesn't leak out. So we feel more contained within ourselves and within this human form, within this human body, and within this incarnation, because we really are in a time where we need to be grounded and our soul be grounded in this body, in this life. I know there's a lot of talk in the spiritual circles around ascension, and we're ascending, yes, but part of that is also descending. You know, the soul is descending into the body. And in that way, we are bringing that ascension process into the physical rather than making an energetic or a soul, only a soul space. Why this is so powerful in a group session is that we often carry similar wounds, you know, similar emotions, similar feelings. You know, the experiences that created those are going to be different, but there's a similar feel to them. So what I do is I take the group that is joined, and I feel into this small collective that we've created here. And I say, okay, as a collective, what are the emotions that you guys are working through? What are the emotions that are coming up that can be cleared, that are linked to these ancestral wounds and linked to these soul wounds? So then I go in and I get those. One of the things that I found so fascinating, can't remember when this was, you know, I've suffered from abuse in my life, not sexual, but physical, emotional, mental abuse. One of the things that you know I really struggled with was, why did my soul choose this? You know, why would I choose to hurt myself, you know, to be hurt? Really, it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And I was given such clear insight that abuse is never part of our soul contract. It is the one thing that we do not agree to on a soul level. If it is something that happens, we can break a soul contract immediately with that person. It doesn't matter whether there's karma, whether we've come in to heal it, we can disconnect and cancel that contract. Our soul chooses healing. Abuse is not healing. It just incurs more karma, more trauma. So this is not something that our souls choose. From a soul perspective, we choose our life. Okay, so we come into this lifetime ultimately with the purpose of healing, growth, and evolution for our soul. So all the experiences we choose from that perspective with healing in mind. Okay, so that is always the purpose. However, we come into our human form, and now suddenly we have an ego, and comes into play, and the ego can either divert us from those soul choices or that soul path, or the ego can trigger us into behaving in ways that our soul has not chosen. So there's therein lies the human choice. Do you follow, you have two choices as a human being. Do you follow the path of your ego, or do you follow the path of your soul? When there is abuse, it's not you as your human self that has chosen that abuse. It is your abuser that has chosen to follow the path of his or her ego rather than follow the path of their soul. What can we do with it? Instead of we have the choice, we have had this experience. It wasn't something that our soul chose. So almost in the moment, our soul's got to come up with, okay, shit, this happened. What do I do? How do I, what do I do with this? But if we can take it and say, how do I learn from this? How do I grow from this? How do I move beyond becoming a victim? How do I use this as something that can empower me rather than disempower me? So very clear when I had my first child is that I looked at this tiny little human being that had come through me and realized that I had a choice in that moment. I could continue to perpetuate the patterns, the abuse, all of that. I could do that. I could so easily become my mother. And in that moment of her a few hours old, knowing that I had a choice and I had to make the right choice for me and for her. And that is where I completely shifted everything in myself, in my life. I reorientated myself completely in alignment with my soul so that I did not do the same thing to my child that had been done to me. But for me, it was that moment after giving birth of going, it stops here. I am not doing this. I'm not passing this on to my child. I am not going to do this to this incredible, perfect little human. It stops, and it sounds like it was an easy choice. It wasn't, because it meant my entire life went into complete chaos, because all of a sudden I had to learn how to be different. I had to learn how to be a different person, what I'd been taught, what I'd been shown, what I'd been given, all had to change because, essentially it wasn't me. I mean, I was trying to live a life that everyone else thought I should be living. For me, it's just, I just never want people to have to suffer. I don't believe we should suffer. I don't believe life is meant to be suffering. I think life is meant to be, sure, there are going to be obstacles and there are going to be challenges, but ultimately at the foundation of it, there should be this joy, despite the ups and downs and whatever. And I just think, let's do what we can to find our way back to joy. And to clear all of this crap. It was ultimately your soul will use everything to its advantage, even the abuse. And we can clear ourselves of the karma and the entanglement with that person in this lifetime. They will, however, incur more karma and more entanglement within themselves, and will have to play out that experience in this lifetime or another, and with another. Doesn't have to, it won't be with us. So we can really free ourselves from that, because ultimately it's about us. It's not about that other person. As long as we keep focusing on what are my choices, how am I living my life, doesn't matter what they're doing, doesn't matter what their choices are. We don't need to engage in that. We just need to keep our focus on ourselves and our path, and doing the best that we possibly can. Yeah, there's a lot of stories that can come out of the ancestral stuff, and the realizations we can have around, what we lived with, what we've carried, these burdens, these wounds, these emotions, these feelings that aren't us. So this is deep. This is deep work, and there are profound things that come out of it. And a lot of the stuff we can't make sense of because it's not necessarily relevant to our lives. It might give some answers or explain some of our feelings and what we've carried but not known why or what or whatever it may. But so most often this is just stuff that needs to go. Our energetic field is informed by our energetic environment. and that energetic environment includes everything, so where you live, who you surround yourself with, all of that. It's informing it all the time. And when we're children and we're developing and we're growing, if we've grown up with parents who are not holding that space for us to emerge into as the being that we are, then we are told from day one, this is who you will be, this is how you will be, this is how you must act, this is how you must behave, this is how you must think, this is, everything is told to us, rather than anyone saying, well, who are you? Who is this person that has come? Who is the soul that is emerging into this body?